Okay, we'll quickly go over the structure for the webinar, and then we'll get into the content. So today's webinar is on text tools in Flexi 19. We'll just do a short introduction here, and then we'll have 30 to 40 minutes of teaching, and then we'll have a Q&A section at the end. So if you have any questions, feel free to type them into the chat. My colleague Jasper will be monitoring the chat, and then we will address them at the end. So we won't pause in the middle of the content unless it's a very specific question. So in the chat box at the bottom right, you can just type any questions you have, and then we will address them at the end. So these are the main things that we want to cover in this webinar. So we'll be looking at text tools in Flexi, double and triple click to modify text styles and how you can apply text styles to different bodies of text. And then we'll have a look at barcodes, QR codes, data matrices, and Braille. And then we will look at the Find My Font application. We have a few other nice tips and tricks that we will be able to demonstrate to you during this webinar as well. Okay, so let's get straight on with the content. I hope everyone can see the Flexi application okay. So the text tool in Flexi is on the left-hand toolbar here. When you open it up, you'll have all of your text options available in Design Central. So here you can set the height of your text. You can set things like character width scaling. You can set your distance between your letters. Plenty of parameters you can set here, as well as your normal paragraph settings like alignment, tab distance, word spacing. Lots of helpful tools here for using your font. But if you hold down left click, or if you click and drag on the text tool, you'll have this text toolbar, which will allow you to select a number of different features in the way you create text. So this is the text creation toolbar right here. Sorry, the tracking's a bit off. My application's scaled. Okay. So the first option that we have here is your standard text tool. So let's increase the size here a bit. As we showed before, with the standard text tool, you can do a number of things like change your font. You can set the size of your font. You can set plenty of different parameters, such as the word spacing, whether your paragraphs are aligned to the center, to the left, to the right. All of that's available in Design Central. But there are also some other options we have here. So the first one we're going to look at is the Arc text tool. So this tool allows you to click and drag, and you make a circle, and here you can use a text based on the line of a circle. So we can write things like text on circle, and that's how the text will be formatted. So this is very useful if you want to make some text to go around a circular design. So let's take a look at a practical example of how we can use that. So I'm going to come to our sign design elements, which is a feature that we offer to subscribers. Subscribers will get 5 free downloads per month, but you can pay for a increased license like I have for 100 a month. So let's see if we go into photos. What shall we choose? Let's choose basketball. See if we have anything here. It wants me to log in. Here we are. All right, so let's say we want to choose this image of our basketball. We're going to import this image into Flexi. So here we have our image. I'm just quickly going to mask it with a circle so that I only have the basketball. Now, let's say I want to put some text around this object. How can I do it? Firstly, I'm going to click and drag and put my circle roughly around the outside of my basketball. And then I can type some things around my object. So let's say we're going to make just some small stickers for a basketball team. And then I'll change my rotation here to 90 degrees. And that will format it from the top of my circle. So the option that I have selected here is for top and bottom style. So when I use this option, I can type the words top, and then anything else will be written on the top line. And then when I hit the enter button, instead of it dropping to a new paragraph or a new line, it drops to the bottom of my circle. So I can use this tool to make some very nice text for the case of making some circular stickers. There are also some more options on how the text is formatted. So you can do things like have it like this, so it's on 2 lines, or like we had it here. You can have it, the text is switched around, whether it's top or bottom, bottom or top. And then you can choose whether it's in the line, on top of the line, or underneath the line. So you can use this to really customize the position of your text around your circle. Okay. And again, you can adjust the text using the Design Central window. There we are. So that's the text on circle tool. I suggest to play around a bit in Design Central, but the rotation of the text will determine the starting point on the circle. So for example, 0 degrees, 90 degrees, 180 degrees, and then 270 degrees, or minus 90 degrees. Okay. So that's our circle. The next thing that we're going to look at from our text toolbar is this option here, which is the path text tool. So this allows you to make your text follow a drawn path, which is very handy if you want to make like a wavy text. So let's come again back onto the Sign Design Elements store and see if we can find a nice example for that. What should we choose? Something wavy. Surfing. Let's see if we can find a nice example. Aha, perfect. So I'm going to download again my image. Now I'm going to import it into Flexi from the store. And then what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to come to my Bezier path tool, and I'm going to use this to draw myself a nice line here over my beachfront. And this is the line that I want my text to follow. So I can come to my path text tool, and you'll see when I hover over the top of my path, it comes up with the cursor where I can click to type text. And so here I can adjust my parameters as always. I can adjust the font that I want to use. Let's see if we can find something nice and cool. Probably not. My fonts are quite limited on this PC. And then choose something like this. Click on my line. And we can easily, as you see, draw a line like so. I can have my text follow the line. I can modify my text as I want, like so. And then when I'm finished, I can come back to my selection tool, simply click on my line, and then I can move, and I can, let's see, just the line. I can delete that and it will go from my text. And then my text is it's here, it's formatted to the shape of my line. So again, when finished, I can just select my line and hit delete. And there we are. So this is a nice little example of how you can use the line tool. Again, if you want to draw anything kind of freehand, it's a little bit more complicated to do, but your text can, in theory, follow any path. So as you see, it's quite a handy little tool. And then the workflow is the same. You can just delete the line and your text is formatted like so. Okay. And then we have our next tool, which is the vertical text tool. This does pretty much what you would expect. You can just type something like that and it will come from top to bottom rather than left to right. So anything you can imagine here, like skyscraper signs. See if we can find something to use as an example for this. Cityscape. Is there anything good here? Yeah. So let's take the Eiffel Tower, import this into Flexi, make it a bit taller, and then let's choose some cool fonts. What do we have? It's not so clear to see. Let me just make an outline for this one so that everyone can see it. Oops, that's not a very good one. This is not a very good example of a font. But yeah, as you can see, it's a line font. You can then afterwards rotate it as normal. It's just top to bottom instead of left to right. And again, the paragraphing on this is like so. And that's the vertical text tool. Okay. And then again, we have the vertical path text tool, which will work in a similar way to our standard text tool. But actually, we can do a better example here. So if we come back to our Bezier curve tool, we can click here, and draw ourselves a nice curve. Use the vertical path tool. We get our cursor again for writing. Let's choose this time a decent font. These are all line fonts. Okay. Let's make this one white. Then we can select our line, delete our line, and that's how the vertical path text tool works. The same as the path text tool, it works vertically instead. So you have a bunch of different options there for using your text tools. So these are our 3 examples for the circular text tool, the path text tool, and the vertical and vertical path text tool. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to look at is the double and triple click options for your text. This will allow you to modify the positioning of individual letters and the actual positioning and shape of your text. So let's just write something like, okay, when I have my select tool selected, single clicking on my text will give me the standard options in Design Central. If I double click on my text, we'll see here that it brings up these arrows here and on the corner. So these arrows here are for adjusting how your letters are angled. So you can do things like create angular text, like so. Even works with up and down, like so. The options on the corner are for rotation. You can rotate full 360 degrees. And again, this is available still in Design Central. Little trick here, if you hold Shift, it will snap your rotation to 45-degree intervals. So if you want to have something, for example, exactly 45 degrees, you can do it easily. Just double click on your text, click on rotate, hold Shift, 1, and it's ready. Of course, you can use these in combination with each other. So you can shear them and rotate them to make all kinds of weird effects for your text. And let's go back to the original here. Okay. Next option that we're going to look at is the triple click. So if we go 1, 2, 3, it brings up these sets of options here. We see this is completely different to my double click. And what this will actually allow me to do is adjust each letter of my text individually. So my option on the bottom is for moving the character. So if I click behind my G and then I drag, I can move my G individually closer to or further away from the rest of my text. With this option selected, if I hold Shift, I can also move text up and down. So I can use this to create all kinds of weird effects with my text. I can adjust each letter's positioning individually, like so. So either vertically or horizontally. The other options that we saw were the top buttons here, which are for rotating the character. So if I undo everything, I can rotate each letter. I can rotate each letter individually as well. So as you can see, you can use this to create some kind of interesting and wacky designs for your text for any kind of situation which may require you to have kind of full ability to adjust and modify your fonts, like so. Okay, so that's double click and triple click. Single click is for your size and your basic parameters. Double click is for shearing and for rotation. And then triple click is for spacing, or shift for up, and rotation via the top knobs here. So that's a double and triple click. All right. The next thing that we're going to look at is text styles. And you may be wondering what text styles are, but they're kind of a formatting for your text, which you can copy and paste to other bits of text. So let's just say we have a number of different text objects in our file, like so. If we have a lot of text objects, it can be very difficult to adjust all of the parameters for the text manually ourselves. So let's say we have our kind of sample here, and then we make some more text. So let's make another one here. I'm going to format this text in a way that I want the others to be formatted. And then I'll demonstrate how you can use text styles to copy and to save the formatting for this text. So in Design Central, I'm going to choose the font which I would like. I'm going to adjust the size like so. You can also adjust the alignment and almost anything else in Design Central. So if I adjust my spacing between the words as well, or between my letters, this is how I want to format the rest of my text here. So with my text selected, I can right click on my text, come to text styles at the bottom here, and I can select copy style. I can then select my other text objects, right click on them with the text tool. So, I can select my text, come to the bottom to text styles, and select here the paste style option. And it will paste the style from my first letters to the rest of my letters. Again, with any other text object, you can right click and text styles and paste style. If I want to use this text style in the future, rather than just in the same file, I can right click, come to text styles, and I can select store style. And I can store this as test style, for example. And then in a new document of Flexi, I can write a load of different words. I can right click, go to text styles and select apply style. And my test style, text style will be saved. And then here it will give me a small preview. And when I apply this, it will apply it as in the previous document to all of my text. So you can really use this to copy and paste your formatting for your text in many different files and many different documents. So if you use similar style text, for example, you're numbering a large amount of doors for a building, you can use the text styles to make sure that you keep exactly the same formatting between different documents for the same company. So this is something I would strongly recommend using. And again, I'll show you how you can save a text style. So if we choose a text, choose some formatting for it, we can right click on our text, come to text styles and click store style. Okay. And then again, we write something else. We come back to our text styles and our test style 2 is here and we can simply apply it to our text. So it's quite a handy tool and something which isn't used as often as it should be because it's very, very good for keeping consistency in your text documents. And again, text styles are accessible from the text menu as well as just right clicking on your text. but right-clicking is sometimes the easiest option. Okay. Now, the next thing that we're going to look at is barcode, QR code, and data matrix. So under the text tab here, you'll see we have options for Braille, barcode, QR code, and data matrix. So here, any text that you type can be selected and then converted to any of these options here. So you can make it into a barcode, like so. Make it into QR code, like so. And for each of these options, your parameters for your barcode, QR code, or data matrix will appear in a tab in Design Central. So we can see for my QR code, I can give it a QR code type, like a web URL or a phone number, so that the application scanning it will understand what kind of QR code it is. You see they differ slightly for each of the different options. There are also some other options that you can change here if necessary. For example, the size or the content data. So if we have a web URL, we'll just have it as byte data. Again, once the QR code is created, you can come back to text, QR code, and then select QR code to text, and it will simply convert it back for you. So you can double check that it is correct. And again, when it is a QR code, you can even come back and edit it. So if I made a mistake in this, as an example, I can edit it and it will change my QR code. So I'm not sure if you saw that, so I'm just going to undo and then come back to edit it. And if you watch closely, it changes my QR code. And again, as we showed before, you can even do this for barcodes, like so. All of your options here for the barcode width, the bar height, the wide to narrow ratio, anything that you might have to adjust here, editing, converting to text, all of those options are in Design Central. Now, we won't go into too much detail about it, but for those of you who use the tool, you can also use this in combination with auto serialization. But if I have a placeholder text here of some numbers, and then I convert this to a barcode. So let's say a barcode 128, like so. I can come to arrange and then auto serialize, and it will recognize my barcode as a text. So let's say I have 15 columns, 100 copies, and I want to serialize this number. I will automatically serialize it as numbers, starting with 1, going up by an increment of 1. It will automatically generate my sequential barcodes like so. And for those of you who work with barcodes for packaging companies or anything like that, it's a very handy tool. So you can double check it by ungrouping them and then coming back to the barcode tool and do barcode to text, and we can easily see the data which has been numerized sequentially. So it's quite a handy tool for anyone who's using barcodes, needs to generate sequential barcodes or any QR codes, such like that. Okay. The next thing that we're going to look at is examples of masking text and welding text, and how you can then go back and modify it afterwards. So we will come back to sign design elements here. And let's take a pattern. Let's see what comes up. This one. Let's take this one. So we're going to download again and import a pattern for a photograph. And let's say we want to mask our text so that it has this pattern within the text. We choose something quite blocky. We're going to type our text here. And then we're going to drag and select them, right click and select mask. And we see that it has masked the text over our image. But as we can see, I made a mistake in my text and I got my H and my T the wrong way round. And so instead of unmasking it, I can select my object, come back to the text tool, and I can change these around. So it says see the light, and it will automatically remask my text over my image. As you can see, it's a very handy tool to use. You can easily remodify your text and it will remask it. So again, I make a spelling mistake in my text. I can right click and mask it. Then simply come back to the text tool and select and then change it. Sorry. Like so, and it will remask it over the image. So let's see an example of welding and how it remembers your welding as well. So if I'm writing with a kind of scripty font and I'm cutting it out of direct vinyl, let's find one which will overlap a bit. Not this one. This one. Okay. Oops. So as you can see, there is some overlap in my text here. So when I cut this out of vinyl, I need this font to be welded because otherwise it's going to cut twice over these sections. And when I read it, it won't be correct. So I can right click on my text and select the weld option. But let's say I made a mistake in my text. I then have to unweld it and edit it and then re-weld it. But that's not the case in Flexi. In Flexi, you can simply edit the text like so. And then when you click off the text and click back onto it, Flexi will have remembered that you applied welding to the text and it will reapply welding to the text. So I will show that again for you. So I weld my text here. I then need to edit it. So I come back to my text tool, add some more letters in, and then I click off my text and back onto it, and the welding has been applied. So I don't have to weld my text again every time I need to edit it. You can simply modify it and Flexi will remember automatically that you made changes to this text object. So that's quite a nice little tip and trick you can use when masking to get images within your text or cutting out of vinyl with the requirement to weld your text. This also applies to a lot of other parameters in Flexi. So if we have a contour cut, for example, around my text, and I apply it, If I want to add some more letters again or remove extra letters, like so, the contour cut line adjusts around the path of the text. And this is something which is a great benefit over softwares like Illustrator, which aren't designed so much as sign making softwares, more design softwares. So Flexi is built with sign making needs, such as remembering cut contours and welding, in mind. Okay, and the last little thing that we will cover before we have some Q&A is the Find My Font tool. So a lot of times on sign making forums, let's go to my desktop. I see questions from users about, can you help me recognize this font? Which font is this? Where can I get this font from? So for Flexi subscribers, you have this amazing tool, which Flexi licenses for you, called Find My Font SAi Edition. If you have a subscription, you will have the download Find My Font option in your SAi Cloud window. You simply click on this, and then you sign in with your SAi Cloud account settings, and you can download Find My Font. When you run it from your desktop, it will launch this amazing application, which will easily help you to identify fonts. So if we use some examples, you can take screenshots, you can open images. There are various different ways that you can identify a font. So if we take our font here, let's see, let's actually unmask this one. So the colors are very clear, and let's make it back to its original proportions. This font here is called Cooper Black. So I'm going to use Find My Font to try and identify this. So it's in my screen here. I'm going to click Take Screenshot. Find My Font will take a screenshot of my screen, and then I simply click on the letters, like so. You can hold Shift to add different parts of a letter. So if I click here, I can hold Shift to add the I on the top. When I have my letters selected, I enter in the text to match box what my letters are. Then I select the match fonts option. Now here we see there's two options, online search and local search. Online search will search the whole database of Find My Font to look for the correct font. Local search will match it to the closest one on your PC. So again, let's select match fonts and see what comes up on our system. So here we are. Every single font that is identified as close to it will show up on the right-hand side. The fonts which are green are installed on my local system. And here we see it says system fonts. So now I know that I have Cooper Black Regular installed on my PC, and I can see a preview of how the font will look. Again, there are other recommendations from Find My Font, which are the ones shown in red, which are not installed on my PC. If I'm interested in finding these fonts, I can right-click on it and select View/Find this font online, or Copy Font Name, so I can search for it myself. If I search to find it online, it will bring me to the Find My Font website, where it will have an index of details about the font, who the publisher is, and where you can buy it from. And again, it has the whole character set for the font here. You can test the font here, so you can do something like so. So it's a very, very handy tool for sign makers to preview the fonts. There are also a bunch of other tools if we use some of the sample files to help you recognize fonts that are at an odd angle and rotated and other things like that. So on the left, we have rotation tools. We have a baseline rotation tool, which will flatten a text which is tilted on its vertical axis. And we also have things like an image correction tool, which is very, very handy. If I hold Shift, I can move each of the corners of this independently. And this basically changes the face of the sign, as shown in this little preview here, so that the sign is now facing the correct way. Then I can select the letters very easily. And it's much more likely to give me a correct result, because as you will see when I clear this, if I select these letters at an angle like so, oopsie, it's going to be very difficult for the software to recognize the font correctly. So this is an extremely useful tool for Flexi subscribers. I would suggest to have a look at this if you haven't checked it before. Okay. So that was the content that we wanted to cover in this webinar. So if there are any questions that you guys have about text in Flexi, text tools in Flexi, or even any other questions about Flexi, we'd be happy to answer those for you. Jesus, the Find My Font tool is only for SAi subscribers at the moment. It's not included in the HP Print and Cut edition. But if the user buys a Flexi subscription directly from us, or if you would like a demonstration of the Find My Font feature, we have on our YouTube channel a guide on how it works. So let me just show you that. So we have a YouTube channel for SAi International, SAi, or the SAi channel. So I'll copy this link into the chat for you. And we search Find My Font. Oops, let's search it in our videos. We have a guide on how to use Find My Font. It's a 10-minute guide. It covers a lot of the features within Find My Font, but it will be a good demonstration if your customer is interested in subscribing to stick with SAi software and also to receive the additional cloud tools that we offer. So this is the Find My Font full video for anyone who's interested in seeing the full extent of what Find My Font can do, because it's a very powerful tool. Does anyone have any other questions or something they would like to look at? Okay. During this this time of working from home and things like that, SAI is aiming to do webinars every single week. So let me just double check this. My colleague Jasper will be doing a webinar for you all next week on Tuesday, and this will be on the auto serialization tool. So I'm sure everyone will receive an email about this, but at the same time as this webinar, on Tuesday, the 31st of March, Jasper will be doing an auto serialization webinar. So let's see if I can copy the registration link for you. Here we go. This is the registration link for next week's webinar. Bruno, the webinars that we have scheduled will be visible on the SAI website, provided they are updated. So let me check this one for you. So if we come to thinksai.com, to support and to the training and events tab, the webinars that we have scheduled, for example, this is our one on the 31st of March, they will show for you. So here I can post a link for you. And for Pedro's question about the presentation, we'll be mailing a recording of this webinar to anyone who attended and registered, just in case you want to review it, or if you have any need to show it to other people or such. And for the people that were registered but unable to attend, it will be available as well. There's also a bunch of other great content on our YouTube channel. So if you come to YouTube and search SA International, the SAI channel will be here. And we have a lot of videos completely free and available to users. So I'd suggest to use this this YouTube channel to your advantage as well. Okay, are there any final questions before we wrap up? These are our contact addresses for anyone who's needing to contact us. info@thinksai.com is for any commercial questions or general questions, and support@thinksai.eu is for software support for Europe. Okay, so if there's no more questions from anyone else, thank you very much for attending. Apologize again that the webinar had to be postponed, but the platform was too unstable last week due to everyone working remotely to schedule it. We hope to see you all next week. And yes, stay safe